So online. Very good evening. How is everyone? Can you hear me and see the screen?
Yeah, we can hear you. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Excellent,
Thank you.
excellent. So we'll start it in a moment. Just give me a moment. Anyone joined only today and not yesterday? I want to know if I have to talk about another introduction. Yeah,
Hi,
yeah,
Anil.
go ahead, please. Hi.
This is Naveen. I have joined today itself.
Okay, Naveen. Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, yes, sir. This is Lokesh. So I joined today.
Hi, Lokesh.
Yeah.
Hi, Tushar here.
Hi, Tushar. How are you doing?
I'm great.
So, which means some of you have joined today. So, what I'll do is I'll just go briefly into what this course will constitute, and then I'll start with the introduction to Linux. Is that okay? Or do you want me to go very elaborate into the contents of this course? That would be another demo class. You can definitely ask me questions after I'm done with the class. That's fine.
Linux will be okay.
Perfect. I'm not audible. Subramaniam, can you check the earphones or headphones you're using? Others, can you hear me, guys? Others online?
Yeah, we can hear.
We can hear you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Subramaniam, please check it one more time. And if you still cannot, Mallesh is also saying not audible. Is it? Oh. Okay, guys, can you, Mallesh and Subramaniam, can you log off and then log in again? There could be a problem. All right. So, Mallesh and Subramaniam, if you still have problem, let me know. First things first, welcome everyone. Before we go into the contents and the demo of this session, my name is Anil. I'm a cloud architect, and my specialization is basically AWS and Devops. Two words, developers nowadays. What is it called? There is a recent phenomena called developer experience. What it basically means is all these tools that are being developed. Am I sharing the screen? I am sharing the screen. Okay, let me share it again. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Yeah, this is the white screen. This is the only thing I have written. Naveen, can you see the screen?
No, actually, I don't. It's blank for me. I think it's. Do you want me to rejoin once again?
Can you see something now? I'm just
No, it's
typing
blank.
random stuff.
It's blank screen.
Okay, let me change it to something else. What do you see now?
No, it's still I'm able to see on the blank screen.
I think what happened is it froze on your system. So it's not actually moving to the next screen when I changed it. Can you log off and log in again quickly?
Sure, I'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Let's just give a moment, guys. Once this gets sorted out, the connectivity thing, we will start again. Anybody who cannot hear me or cannot see the screen, please let me know. Okay, let's start. So I was talking about my experience as a cloud architect. I have 19 plus years of experience, guys. I started in 2003 after my graduation. I'm a BTech computer science graduate. So I started with, initially I was an Oracle DBA. That was about 2 years of my career. Then I moved into a Solaris system admin. All right. Then I was a WebLogic middleware admin. Then joined WebSphere. This is all Java. This is where I started working with Java people at WebLogic. Then moved into JBoss, then Tomcat, other stuff. After that, Devops came into picture. Then AWS Cloud, I am certified AWS administrator, GCP also, Azure also, I'm also certified Kubernetes administrator. Apart from that, I worked on security, then I worked a little bit on networking sometimes, all other roles. So right now, my focus is providing especially these latest set of tools to developers, because everything is all about developers. The whole ecosystem of operations people, AWS cloud administrators, GCP administrators, or Azure administrators, or Kubernetes administrators, they all work so that developer can develop a great product. So my current role is to work with lots of development teams. So I work with Java developers, Golang developers, mobile Flutter developers, then Python developers. And we try to understand what their problems are in terms of DevOps, in terms of using cloud, in terms of using Kubernetes, microservices, those advanced technologies, and set up those tools for them. That's my current experience. I work for a MNC. That's my personal experience, guys. And this Linux thing, I think I started right from my day one. I started with my Linux thing. So you're in safe hands about learning these technologies. Our approach to this whole learning will be twofold. One is concepts. You have to understand the concepts so that you are able to implement anything. That's one thing. And then we also focus on hands-on, the real-time way of doing it. Now, this is focused towards interviews and also working. Means anything that we talk during this session will be one of these four things. Now, what we don't talk is only theory, which is not relevant anymore, or old stuff. We try to avoid the old stuff because it's not useful for anymore. For example, if there is a Solaris related thing, even though it's an interesting one, but it's not useful anymore for the current IT operations. So I usually avoid. The same way, if you look at these three app servers, they are going out of focus. The only thing used is nowadays is Tomcat. These three are almost dead. There are some jobs, but almost dead. So we don't talk about those things. The current focus is everything here, guys. Devops and AWS. Even though we have GCP and Azure, if you know one cloud, you will know the concepts in other two clouds also. So current recommendation is to learn one cloud. And then Kubernetes is the latest buzzword for microservices. Everybody is interested in Kubernetes. So we will be talking about those things also. Now, the reason why we are talking only these things is for this and for this. You're all here to get a job, right? Not to learn DevOps. Nobody cares about DevOps if you don't get a job with it. Isn't it? Yes or no, guys? A technology that cannot get you a job is not really useful for you. So my focus will be on giving you the things that will either help you in interviews, if you are searching for a job first time, or you're trying to get into DevOps and AWS roles. If you're already working with this knowledge that you're going to acquire from these sessions, it will make you work better, more efficiently. All right, guys. So that will be our model of training, most of the cases. We will avoid any redundant theory, very old theory I will avoid, unless it is useful for you in some way. That way, we will be able to cover everything that is necessary in these areas. All right. So that's the key points here. Then let's look at the duration, timings, and other stuff. Let's get away with those things. And then I will talk about the contents of this class and how it is relevant for each one of you. All right. So the first thing, duration. Duration, this is going to last for about 3 months. Maybe it will go beyond a month, or let's say 4 months. I'm saying a safe side. I don't want this to go beyond 4 months. So 4 months will be the most likely time. At timings, right now it starts at 7 p.m., expected to end at 8 p.m. It may stretch a little bit between 7:15 to 8:15. All right. Now this initial thing, this 7:15 to 8:15 will be for 10 days until the next year. So we are here 20th. All right. And from 2023, which is Monday, 2nd of January, we will be moving into 6 o'clock. So 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. or 7:15 p.m. approximately. So that will be a slight change. Please make sure you understand that point, because that will be a change of time. So only the first or the next 10 days we will be in 7 to 8, and from January 2nd onwards we will be 6 to 7 p.m. right? Any questions here? Right. The next thing, 4 months and the timings done, right? Then weekdays. It'll be between Monday till Friday. So we have 5 days a week. All right. And on Sundays, usually we'll have a free workshops related to these things. Even though they are not part of this course, we are conducting a lot of workshops which are related to the same DevOps and AWS. So recently we have done a GitHub workshop. It was 2 weekends or 2 Sundays we conducted 4 hours each. Now the reason why I conduct these free workshops between these classes, the workshops will be focused primarily on the interview focused thing, very key points only. Whereas our regular class, which is our 4-month session, will be more detailed. So you will have a lot of depth in the 4 months thing. Whereas these things are like, come sit around, learn things quickly, revise things quickly. So even for all those who are attending this session, I recommend you watch out for the weekend things, Sunday workshops. So that way, whatever you are learning during these 4 months, you will also revise them during Sunday workshops. And because these Sunday workshops are 1-day workshops, the content in those workshops will be very crisp, bullet points kind of content. So you will remember things much quicker. And that will be more helpful for interviews. Because nobody will ask you the whole theory in interview. In interview, it's all about bullet points. All right. And also the workshops will be focused on hands-on little bit, means real-time working kind. So, keep a watch on, you will definitely get messages and other stuff. Even I will tell you during the class. But the reason why we have only 5 days is the 6th day of the week, we want to give you additional content in a different model, means in a more revision way. I don't want to leave you to do the preparation for yourself. Instead, I will guide you through these workshops throughout your preparation. In those preparation, our focus will be more towards interviews, answering those questions, and how it's done in real time, that kind. All right. It will also become a repetition or a revision version. All right. So that's your duration, timings, and other stuff. The fee part, I'm not really sure. Please check it with the admin. I think there are some of you are from package and other thing. Please check with the admin. They will be able to give you information. That's your duration. Now let's come to content. Any questions in duration here? You can post it to the chat if you have any questions. Anybody? Rahul, Mukesh, Mayank. Any questions on that? Duration?
Sir, will it take exactly 4 months or will it going to be extend in case?
It might spill over a little bit by a week or so.
Okay.
It might spill over because there will be some unexpected things. So please expect a week, at max week or 10 days spillover. That's it, not beyond that thing.
Yeah. Okay, sir.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Good. Let's move on to the content part. There are 3 areas that we cover here, guys. The most important things are 2. your DevOps, and AWS. Now, to understand these two, there is a prerequisite, Linux. That is something that we are covering also. But the focus of this course is basically these two. And these two technologies have the potential to get you a job, irrespective of what you are learning other than these two. Means these two independently themselves can get you a job. You could be a simple DevOps engineer, or you could be a simple AWS cloud engineer. Without DevOps also, they can get you a job. And if you are a full stack developer, means you are learning parts of Java, even if you are at CoreJava level, or if you are a Python developer, you are learning Python. If you are a .NET developer, or any other node or front end, only front end also, you get jobs. Now, anybody who is learning these things are targeting career primarily in these areas, they'll require DevOps for sure. In the DevOps, there is a development side that you will require. Let me show you the list of tools that you will require as a DevOps engineer from a developer angle. Just give a moment. If you see this image, this is pretty much DevOps. The left side is what developers mostly focus on, and right side is what operations people usually focus on. Here, if you see Git, Jenkins, Maven, these are the things mandatory for all developers. The same tools, Git and Jenkins, are also mandatory for operations people. Apart from this, AWS is one thing, Docker and Kubernetes also we are covering. The code ship is similar to Jenkins, so we won't be covering anything, and we will not touch anything related to monitoring, which are these two. So our focus is more towards left side. But even if you are trying on the right side, you have three important things here. One is Docker, which will lead you to Kubernetes, which we are covering, then AWS. Then there is another thing which is not in this list that we are covering, very popular one, Terraform. You see this Chef and Ansible in here, they are dying. Instead of these two, Terraform is taking place. I just now at the beginning of this discussion, I told you, right? We will not cover anything that is not going to be useful for getting you a job. Therefore, no Chef, no Ansible. Instead, we will focus on something that can get you a job really quickly. Terraform. So if you say you know Terraform and AWS with little bit of DevOps, you can get a job in about a month. You don't have to know Java, but if you know Java, that's a different story. So our focus will be on majorly DevOps and AWS together. But to understand these two things well, and to be able to work in an environment efficiently, you will require Linux. And that's why we have added Linux also. Ideally, Linux will take about 3 weeks. So that's about 20 days, let's say. Out of 4 months, total 120 days. So 20 days, this is about 50 days. Other one is about 50 days. That's a rough distribution of how these 4 months are distributed. Any questions so far? So we will be starting with Linux first, So we will understand the basic Linux commands and also some shell scripting of Linux. So in Linux, basic Linux commands, there are 100 Linux commands, let's say, and then some shell scripting. This shell scripting is called bash scripting. If you are not comfortable with shell scripting, that's perfectly fine. But these 100 commands, you will learn by the time we finish it. Don't be scared because I'm saying 100 commands. They are groups of commands. So I will make sure you are able to remember those things. After this Linux thing is done, means about 20 days, we will start with DevOps little bit so that you understand what DevOps is, why it is so popular. Once we go halfway into DevOps, we will start AWS. Because this DevOps can also be done on AWS. All right. So then we will understand what is cloud, what is AWS cloud, how that cloud is different from Google and Azure. Once you understand the basics, we go into 6 services of AWS, 6 verticals. They are compute services, network services, automation related services, monitoring related services, storage related services. We got 5. Then user management or identity and access management related services. Not in this order. I will give you that order once we reach there. These are the 6 verticals that will have about 200 services of AWS. Now it moved from 200 to 300. But out of 300 services, how many do you think you need to know to get an AWS job? There are 300 products on AWS. So if you
Maybe
say,
like
I
5.
know AWS, how many of these 200 you think you should know? Any guesses?
5 or 10.
5 or 10? Any other guesses, guys? Can you guys post it? Just a quick posting of what you think is the difficulty level of AWS. It's really important that you know what you should learn in AWS. 20 plus locations, we should know at least 20 plus. Anybody else want to pick another number? 5, 10, 15, 20, 10 plus. Good, Manendra, 10 plus, Lokesh is 20 plus. Anybody who says more than 20 or 30. Anybody who thinks out of 300 services we have on AWS, should we know more than 20, 30 plus? Not really necessary. So on an average, a general AWS administrator knows about 10 services really well, another 10 little bit. That's it. So for you to get a job really well, how many you think you should know? Really well. If you know 5 services, you can get a job. Anybody with 4 plus or 5 plus experience, if you are trying, if you know 5 services, it's more than enough. Those 5 will be under compute. You will have EC2, ECS, Lambda, Network, only one thing, VPC. Automation, nothing is really necessary. Monitoring, CloudWatch. Storage, S3, and EBS. IAM, you don't have to really know anything. These are about 5 or 6 services that I'm listing. These are the services, and this is the category of the service. If you know these things, you can get a job comfortably. Any AWS administrator will only know these things really well, and then another 10 little bit here and there. Anything else you need in your job, you can learn it on the job itself. So we are going to focus on these areas and extremely important services. As we said, our focus is on 2 things. One is getting you a job and excelling at that job. You want to be really good at your job. If you are attending interviews, you want to crack everything, every job. So when you attend an AWS interview, you will not be able to answer all the questions because there are 300 services. The interviewer might ask something that you are not familiar with. Now, that does not mean they are not going to give you a job. If you know these services, the basic services that I listed here, it's guaranteed that you will get a job. Guaranteed. But you have to know them decently well. So we will be covering these important services. Along with these services, we are going to cover some things which are focused towards developers, something like API gateway, Lambda functions to an extent, Elastic Beanstalk, X-ray, which is used for debugging. These are some of the things used specifically by any developer, not just full stack developers, any developer. So here we will be covering these things also. Now, the people who are targeting support, the API gateway is really important. The other 3 things are not really that focused. But here, because we are in DURGASOFT, majority of the students are from a development background. We want to focus on the areas which are keenly used by the developers. So this AWS that we are going to cover is common for all developers as well as support people. Because we are not targeting support or development. We are targeting the basic job of 3 to 4 or 5 years. So these services that we are covering are mandatory for anybody. All right, so that's our AWS. Then the DevOps will be covering all major tools, starting with Git, GitHub, Jenkins, Maven for building. Then we'll be covering Gradle, Maven and Gradle at a time. Then we'll be covering Docker and Kubernetes. And the additional thing that can get you a job, we'll be covering Terraform with AWS. Terraform can be done with GCP also, Azure also, but the most popular one is Terraform with AWS. So these things are the DevOps part. Now, apart from this generic DevOps, if you observe these things, these are all open source DevOps. Git is open source, Jenkins is open source, Maven Gradle is open source, Docker is open source, Kubernetes is open source, Terraform is open source. All right. Now, these are all open source. The same DevOps tools can be implemented in AWS also. Sorry, what's that, Tushar?
Open source means we'll get in Google or how that?
Open source means we don't have to pay them any money to use this
Okay.
product. So we can
Okay.
download it free of cost, install it on any system and use it, both for
Okay.
personal use and commercial. Means we can do it for our personal use. Even companies also can use it on their servers. There will not be any legal issues.
This is our servers or how, sir? Website or what is this?
These things,
These are our servers.
these are all products.
Product,
Git is a
okay.
product. Jenkins is a product. Maven is a product. The uses of each of these products, we will understand once we go to that specific product. Right now,
Okay.
I'm only listing that list of components which are part of DevOps.
Fine,
All right.
sir, fine.
So you will
Okay.
keep coming at this list again and again. So wherever you go and talk about DevOps, you will
Okay.
see the same list being taught. If you
Fine.
go to an interview, they'll ask you, do you know Git? Do you know Jenkins? Do you know little, Docker and Kubernetes? So these are the things they will ask questions about. These are the things that you should be familiar with to get
Fine,
through
sir,
your
fine.
interview.
Yeah.
Naveen is asking, do you want to cover OpenStack? No, OpenStack is not really necessary, Naveen. OpenStack is a virtualization platform like AWS, but for private cloud. So it is not really necessary to learn OpenStack at this point of time. Instead, if you learn AWS or GCP or Azure, you will have better opportunities. So we will not be adding OpenStack, which is by private cloud by Red Hat. So we're not doing that. So that is about your DevOps, guys. Now, the same DevOps can be done on AWS also. That's the reason I said we will start a little bit of DevOps, then we will go into AWS, right? That's what I said, right? So this same DevOps, instead of open source tools, AWS gives their own set of tools. They are called AWS DevOps. So the AWS DevOps has some tools. This is the list of tools. It's called code commit, which is similar to Git and GitHub. Then code artifact, code build. This is similar to Maven and Gradle. All right. Then code deploy is there. That's for deployment. And then you have all these things will come together and it's called code pipeline that we will have to learn so that we can implement these things. Then instead of Docker, they have Elastic Container Registry, ECR it's called. Instead of Docker Hub, they have ECR. Then for Kubernetes, they have EKS, Elastic Kubernetes Services. All right. So we will be going into these areas and we will compare the DevOps of AWS with the DevOps of open source. Earlier, I also said there will be workshops, right? So one of the workshops could be on open source DevOps tools. Another workshop could be on AWS DevOps tools. That way, you will have a repetition of these things going on. All right. Well, so here, coming back, so I pretty much I covered the whole content. The internals of each of these content, we will know, for example, what are we going to learn in Jenkins exactly? We will know when we reach there. So we will see how to install Jenkins, how to set up a pipeline in Jenkins, all right? How to deploy to a Tomcat server from Jenkins, these kind of things. The exact list of things We will know when you reach that. But be assured that we are going to cover everything that is required for you to get a job. Everything. All right. So that's the content part. Duration I told you. And it's applicable both for developers as well as operations support people. All right. So tomorrow onwards, we will be starting with Linux, the basic commands themselves. We'll be starting with initially what is Linux, and then Windows versus Unix versus Linux. Then we will get into the 100 commands that we are talking about. So this is a general outline. Once we get a little comfortable, we will get into DevOps and AWS. Now let me show you some prerequisites. The prerequisites, there are no prerequisites except for Linux. You don't have to really know anything at all. So both DevOps and AWS, I'm going to cover it from very basics, extremely basics. So I'm not assuming that you know anything at all. I'll assume you're fresh out of college or you're from a non-IT background. So this thing will go really slow. And once you are comfortable, we might pick up some pace if you are okay with it. Otherwise, we will go at the same pace that we are going now, or maybe a little slower. All right, that's from a prerequisite and this thing. Other thing is notes, material, other stuff. Notes thing, the class notes, classroom notes that I'm usually typing here, or I'm using some diagramming from our Google Drive. I usually use a Google Drive. These things for diagramming to show you some visual things. If anything that needs to be typed, I usually type it onto your Notepad++. Now this whole thing, the notes of our class, is available for direct access from this location. Let me post that location. This is the location. If you don't have it, please make note of it. I'm posting it to the channel. So that's the location. Right now, there are only 2 files. I usually keep adding daily notes on the daily basis. For example, after we are done with this session, I'll clean it up a little bit, remove all unnecessary things, and then add it to this thing. You will also have this PPT kind of thing. If we have any diagrams, it will be available in here. So that's about your notes, this thing, classroom notes. Then there is something called interview related notes. This is where you will have interview questions and answers, right? And also we are giving some audios so that you understand how to answer a question. But this will come midway through the class, maybe after 2 months. By then, you will understand some parts of this whole course. Then this material will be more useful for you. All right. Apart from that, there is also a PDF material, which is more structured than the classroom notes. Classroom notes is everything that we discuss here. Whereas a PDF material is for future reference. Let's say after 6 months, you want to refer to this DevOps and AWS. You don't have to go through this whole notes. Instead, you will go through the PDF material, which will list out key points that you should always understand and remember. So you can, for the rest of your life, you can simply keep the PDF material with you and it will cover most of the things. All right. This PDF material also, I'll start giving after a month. I'll upload it to the same this thing and it gets updated, on a weekly basis. All right. That's the third thing. Then there are videos thing. You will get videos of all these sessions. They are being recorded. The admin will take care of providing you the videos. The videos will not be available in this direction. I don't have control over the videos. I am not doing the recording, so I don't have the videos. So there will be another mail you will receive. That mail will have a link to some place where you can find the videos. All right. So that's about notes, material, videos, and everything. Apart from that, you can always ask me questions on the call itself if you are online, or directly to me if you are sitting offline.
Yes.
I'll try to answer whatever I can every time.
Yes. I have one question.
Yes.
Will you cover RDS, Redshift, analysis?
Yes, we will cover RDS. That's part of the storage thing. You can have the complete list of services that we are covering in this PDF. If you see this thing, we have Route 53, we have RDS here. All right, so we'll be covering 3 major RDS: Oracle, MySQL, Postgres. We will also be covering a cloud native database, Aurora, which is of AWS itself. And then we'll be covering a couple of in-memory databases, Redis and Elasticache. All right. Other than RDS and Aurora, you can get a complete list of things that we are going to cover in this PDF itself. Now, this PDF pretty much covers everything in AWS, which we are going to cover in this class. There might be slight changes here and there. Means if we want to add additional things, I will add it on the fly. And if something is not really necessary, we might want to skip it. But this PDF will give you a very good idea of what this course is going to teach you. That answers your question?
Yes. And
do you have access to this PDF? Did you get it?
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And one more point, what is the ECS? What is the application?
What's that? Sorry, I could not. What is that?
ECS. Can you please go Notepad++?
Okay.
Can you please go up?
Okay.
1 second. Go to yeah. AWS in AWS complete ECS and EBS. What are the abbreviations for that? ECS.
S3 is simple storage service. EBS is elastic block storage. Is that what you're asking? EBS?
Yes.
Elastic block storage. This is basically the hard disk of any virtual machine. Whereas S3 is like a G drive. You can only store images in here, or you can store PDFs. You cannot edit anything on S3. Whereas EBS is like your laptop hard disk. You can open a file, edit it, and save it. We will see the difference when we reach there.
Sure.
One is object storage. This is block storage.
And above ECS.
Above ECS, Elastic Container Service. This is the Kubernetes related thing, but before Kubernetes, or easier than Kubernetes. If you have a bunch of Docker images and you want to launch containers, you can use ECS instead of Kubernetes. Kubernetes is very complex. So not every company needs Kubernetes. So if they don't need Kubernetes, they can go with what is called a container service. Much easier than Kubernetes. All right.
Yes, yes. EC2, ECS both are different, right? EC2 we are launching Yami like
EC2 is
instance.
just like Elastic Cloud Compute. It is a virtual machine, like a laptop on your cloud. Whereas ECS is about containers. They are two different things. We'll talk about the difference. When I introduce ECS, I will tell how it is different from EC2.
Actually, you showed in content, right? Whatever you topics like RDS, Glue, yeah, Dynamo DB and Kinesis, and will you cover in AWS specific or any specific days? So that's why I'm confusing. You are not mentioned in the note that that's I'm confused.
No, these are the services that we're going to cover. What's the question?
No, you didn't mention Notepad++, so that's why Notepad, so that's why you didn't mention. So, okay,
No, I did not mention what?
These services like DynamoDB, Redshift, and
No. These are the full list of services. What I mentioned here is verticals. For example, compute is a vertical. It's a category. In the category, these are all services. The same way, automation is a category. In this, you will have cloud formation, SDK-based automation, then CDK-based automation, then Boto 3 framework. That's all automation. Means there will be about 3 to 4 services which will fall under automation. The same way storage. Storage is a category. Under storage category, S3 is one service. EBS is another service. EFS will be another service. So there will be multiple services. So what normally happens is we should not go by the list of services. You get confused. Instead, we should go by the category of service. What exactly we are looking for? Are we looking for a virtual machine? That is compute. There are lots of types of virtual machine. It could be a EC2, it could be a ECS, it could be Lambda. So as a cloud developer or architect, you have to decide what type of service you need to run your application. And to decide that, you have to know which category it falls on. So I listed only the categories, not the entire list of service. Whereas this PDF has the full list of services that we're going to count.
What about Glue and EMR?
No, I can't hear you properly.
Yeah, EMR and Glue. EMR.
EMR is Elastic MapReduce. We are not going to cover Elastic MapReduce. That is Hadoop related. If you are into Hadoop, big data, and if you are planning on big data specialty, you would usually target Elastic MapReduce, that kind of thing. Kinesis, Kafka, that stuff. But this is more targeted towards basic developer related areas. So we are not covering. So okay, that's an important point you raised. This AWS sessions will not cover everything required for certification. Certification requires that you know about all the services in AWS. Little bit of all the services. Like you said, EMR. AWS certification requires that you know what EMR is. We are not targeting certification here. So the target here is more towards developers and working people. So not the certification. If you need certification thing, I might be able to help you with some courses or other areas, but we are not covering those things here. It will be too much to cover.
And Glue Kinesis also in cover, right? Glue Kinesis.
Glue Kinesis, yeah, it's there, but probably we will not be going too deep into it. We will be covering the core areas in depth. Glue is recently introduced, Airflow, Glue, those things. They are more towards cloud development. Cloud development is a next level, or or development area. Cloud native development, it's called. Right now, majority of the development is a regular old style development, not extremely cloud native. So even though Glue, we may introduce it, but I'm not really sure whether it will be appropriate or
Eternal Phoenix also we will discuss. Right? Eternal Phoenix.
not.
Eternal Kinetics. Eternal Kinetics.
Kinesis, all those things are specific to data streams.
Yes, sir.
We'll be covering more generic stuff, which is used everywhere, rather than specific specialization. Right. Other questions, guys, from others? Anybody?
Eternal is also we will cover it.
Athena. Athena is a tool. Athena is a querying tool for big data queries or S3 bucket queries, more from a data analytics perspective.
Yeah, we will discuss in sessions like Eternal Kinetics.
No, I will not discuss anything specific requirement. I'll discuss only generic stuff. If you want me to discuss any specific requirement that you have, we can do it after the session related to that generics.
Oh.
That way, we would not be overloading everybody else. If you want any specific thing, I can discuss with you. The rest of the people will go with the generic thing. Otherwise, they get confused whether they have to learn that also or they can ignore it. We don't want to send multiple signals.
And Apache Airflow is part of AWS or that is different monitoring tool.
What is it?
Airflow.
Airflow is recently introduced. It's a development tool. Apache Airflow.
Nice.
Not monitoring.
Okay. That is part of AWS or that is different from AWS.
It's cloud native development tool. Glue, Airflow, all those things are together. CDK, SDK, that kind of thing. Right? So any other questions, guys? I'm holding up others. I'll answer your questions once we are done. Any questions?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, if there are no questions, that will be all, guys. I'll see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock. I'm still available here if you have any questions for the next 1 or couple of minutes. Otherwise, you can disperse or drop off. Thank you very much, guys.
Hey, hi, Anil.
Hi.
Hey, not something related to syllabus, but how are you making the markings on Notepad++? Are you using any tool? You're writing on top of Notepad++, right? The checks and not sure if you can hear me. Sure.
Give me 1 minute, I'll answer that. Yeah. What's the question?
Hey, it's not anything related to the course, but when you're making, how you're making the check marks or drawings on top of Notepad++.
That's a very pretty nifty tool. A lot of people do not know it. It's called Zoom It.
Yeah.
Very old tool.
Zoom in.
It's a free tool.
Okay.
So this is a tool. So do a shortcut and then it basically creates a marker. Then you do escape and everything goes away. I can't store it, but it really helps to highlight stuff.
Well, presentation, right?
Yeah. This is really a lot of people ask me, especially vice presidents, all these people. How do you do that kind of thing? It helps really well.
Got it. Can you spell that once more?
JOOMIT.
Okay. Zoom it. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions, guys? Okay, if there are no questions, that'll be all, guys. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Thanks so much.
Yeah, sure. Anil, sir,
Yeah.
One thing. No, first we will discuss AWS or DevOps. First the license, right? After that, we'll discuss the AWS or DevOps.
We'll first start with Linux. We'll cover the basics of Linux commands. Then we will go a little bit of DevOps to understand what DevOps is, why these DevOps are required. Means the theory part of DevOps. We'll probably finish the Git part also. And then we will get into AWS. Then we understand cloud.
Okay.
And then we start with EC2 instances. And this whole DevOps thing, we will try to do it on AWS. So that way, what happens is you will understand DevOps is not something which is completely different from cloud. The whole DevOps thing can be implemented on the cloud itself. That's a key learning that everybody has to understand. So when we are implementing, let's say Jenkins installation I'm doing, we can do it on AWS server. So that way you will understand, okay, cloud is just a cloud. It's just a bunch of machines that I can create over that. That understanding is really important. So we'll learn, we'll know a little bit of DevOps. Then we'll go into AWS. Then we will come back into DevOps, use AWS to do the remaining DevOps.
Whatever you are discussing, that is developing, that is enough, right, for develop.
Yeah, more than enough. Even if you can remember and reproduce 50% of what we are talking here, you will be the best.
Okay, that is enough for a developer role, right?
Yes. Even developer, even operations also is more than enough.
Sir, like for 4 plus, that should be fine, right?
Yeah. 4 plus perfectly fine. But one thing is, this does not cover everything required for certification. That's something that I'm very clear from the beginning itself. We are not really targeting certification. We are targeting your either interview cracking or your efficient working. If you want certification, there are dumps. Those dumps can help you with certification. Certification, you need to know everything a little bit. And here, that's not really what we are targeting. Make sense?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys. Any other questions? All right. If there are no other questions, we are stopping it here, right? I'll see you tomorrow again at 7 o'clock. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.